What's going on, fight fans? I am your host, D-Bake. This is my co-host, James DiLullo, and this is Cage My Accused UFC 268 preview edition that we got for you. 268 will be live this Saturday from Madison Square Garden in New York with a great five-fight main card. What were your first thoughts of when you saw this main card?
This is like a revenge card. You know what I mean? The two main event, well, the main event and the co-main event are both rematches for the titles with Usman and Covington and Weili, Zhang and Namajunas. So there was like redemption versus revenge versus history repeating itself, and then you obviously have the lightweight matchup that I think everybody's been waiting for. Gaethje finally fighting since his last fight with Khabib almost
Yeah.
2 years ago, going up against Mike Chandler, which is going to be a good one. And then, the bombshell hits us today as we record this that Chandler has COVID, and they're going to still try and get the fight, which is crazy. But top to bottom, this is a good card. Back to back, really good pay-per-views, if you air quote it a little bit. Totally wrong last week with Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah.
Watching that fight, I was like, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable with any of these picks anymore. But yeah, I'm excited about this card, Dan. I really am.
Me too, especially with all the action coming up in November, December.
Yeah.
We've had some rumblings of changes to fights today, but it was very good to see that this main card, as of right now, is still intact,
Yeah.
barring the Gaethje Chandler situation. So keep an eye on that later in the week. But as of right now, they are still fighting. So we're going to do the preview for that for this five-fight main card. But before we
Yep.
get to the preview, as always, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. Of course, we're partnered with the Fighters First Network on YouTube. So if you could go to Fighters First on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell as always, so whenever we put content out, you don't miss any of the action. And then, of course, please hit the like button on this video. Help us out with supporting the podcast. And, of course, hit us up in the comment section with the Euro preview for this Saturday's pay-per-view, and let us know what you think of what we have preview-wise. And, of course, we have merch out now. All you got to do is go to fightersfirst.shop. Check out all the different collections on there. Shirt-wise, there's the Legendary Collection. There's the Tune-Up Crew. There's even the Art of MMA collection. And, of course, we got the Cage My IQ collection. All you got to do is go to fightersfirst.shop, scroll down to the Cage My IQ collection, and check out the shirt and hoodie that we have out. Plus, we have stuff coming out in the future. So definitely check that out. Hit us up on social media and let us know what you think. If you buy anything, and we'll give you a shout out on a later episode of Cage My IQ. But let's get into the action right here that we have for you. The first fight that we have on the main card is a bantamweight matchup between Frankie Edgar going up against Marlin Bearer. Edgar is coming in at 23-9-1 and is the plus 140 underdog, whereas Marlon Bearer is 17-7-1 and is the minus 165 favorite. Edgar is a fighter who has a wrestling and boxing background. He uses quickness and athleticism to attack his opponents. He likes to use lower calf kicks, high kicks, and body kicks. He usually throws a jab 1-2, 2-1, and has a pretty good fighter IQ. He tends to shoot for a double leg takedown or a single leg takedown. And when he gets his opponents on the mat, he has good transitions and ground and pound. He usually has good cardio, but his chin isn't as durable as it used to be anymore. Then he got Marlon Bearer, who is a southpaw fighter who tends to switch his stances and walk down his opponent. He has nice kicks and tends to attack his opponent's lead leg a lot. He has a strong Muay Thai background that he uses in the clinch, and he tends to knee his opponent when they come in right away. He tends to get behind on the judges' cards in some fights, but he has been on a hot streak of lately. Jim, what do you think of this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup. I think Frankie's wrestling could come into play during this fight and would benefit Frankie greatly. Like you highlighted with the switch stance and then the attack in the lead leg, it would negate Frankie's athleticism, one of his greatest strengths. So I think he's going to have to do a wrestle first kind of game plan for this fight. Cheeto's very durable, has above average takedown defense, but he is susceptible to the takedown. If it stays standing, I see Vera getting the win. But if this goes to the ground, Frankie's going to be able to stay on the ground, control the mat, control the fight. So this was a tough one of many tough choices on this card. But I'm going to go with Frankie Edgar on this one. I think he's due for a big win. Cheeto Vera is a big win at this point in Frankie Edgar's career because he's at the gatekeeper role. He's essentially the gatekeeper of this division. So I think that this is a big win. So I'm going to go Frankie by decision.
Yeah, for this one, it's going to be a battle of whether they stand up or the fight goes to the ground, like you said. If it's standing up, I think Marlin Bearer has the volume and just the power to attack Edgar. Edgar's chin, like I said, it's not the same it was before. He's been knocked out several times in his last fight. Of course, you know what happened with that flying knee from Sandhagen that just killed him.
Scary.
But then Edgar really hasn't used his wrestling as much. He showed it in the Munoz fight. But even with that one, that fight could have went either way with how they were fighting, and that was 5 rounds. This is only 3 rounds. And one key point here is even in the clinch, Vera has very good submissions. So even if he takes him down, Edgar has to be afraid of Vera catching him in like a guillotine or a slip to the back to get a rear naked choke, because that is there because he's done that in the past. But for me, I'm going the opposite. I'm going Marlon Bearer. I think he's going to be able to stuff enough takedowns in the 3-round fight and just out volume him. Because even if he gets takedown maybe once or twice, I think the volume difference is going to be too high in favor of Bearer for the takedown to mean much in this fight. I think he's going to pull in a lot. I think he could get anywhere from like 80 to 90 strikes in this because he's going to be the quicker guy, move around. Frankie Edgar's, what is he, like 40 now, just about? And so he's on the last leg of his career, whereas Vera is the fresher guy. So I'm going to go with Vera by unanimous decision.
Okay, so do you think Cheeto Vera? Do you think that he's going to push the pace, or he's going to let Frankie, or he's going to have Frankie walk into those counters?
I think it would be better for him to push the pace because he does have the not only can he strike, he has the leg kicks. You saw in the Sean O'Malley fight where he was able to get those lower calf kicks going from the start, and he did a lot of damage. I think he's going to want to do that. Start with those. See if he can slow down Edgar, because if Edgar doesn't have that speed that he usually likes to use, like rushing in or attacking, he's not going to be able to wrestle as good because he's going to be slowed down. It's going to give Vera time to defend. So I think he's going to do a little bit of that to start out.
Yeah, I mean, it would be to Cheeto's advantage to get Frankie on his back foot and drive him back to the cage so he can work the clinch, then try and get the neck and negate those takedowns. But when this was announced, it was a very interesting matchup because I didn't know where the odds were going to go, because usually Frankie's like a betting favorite, and when he was matched up against Cheeto, I was like, Cheeto's a great fighter. I wonder if he's going to come in as the favorite, and he did. So I'm curious to see how this night starts, because usually we're not on different ends of the spectrum for the first fight, but this is going to be interesting for our little game that we play on in terms of our picks.
Yeah, this is definitely a test for Vera to see if he can move up into the upper echelon of the bantamweights, because he did beat O'Malley, and then he went to war with Grant.
Yep.
And so if he can pick this up, then we know that he's ready to test out the top guys in the division.
Yeah, it's only going to get harder from here, man. He had that real test with Aldo a little while ago. This is that next step with Edgar.
Yep. But let's move on to the second fight on the main card. We have a featherweight matchup between Shane Burgos going up against Billy Quarantillo, aka Billy Q. Burgos comes in at 13-3 and is the minus 200 favorite, whereas Billy Q comes in at 16-3 and is the plus 170 underdog. Burgos is a fighter who likes to use a boxing background. He likes to use constant forward pressure, and he tends to leave his hands low when moving. He likes to use a jab where he throws it at weird angles, and he's predictable with his movement where he always is moving the lead leg. He also likes to throw a check left hook, straight right, and a lower calf kick or body kick. He tends to slide by strikes and focus on attacking the body. He puts out high volume and has great cardio and good pace. He has good takedown defense, but bad striking defense, and he checks leg kicks. Whereas Billy Q is a fighter who likes to move forward and get in front of you. He likes to stay on your front foot and get his opponents to constantly move back. He likes to throw loopy punches. He likes to go for leg trips for takedowns, and when he has his opponent in the cage, he usually goes for double leg takedowns. He tends to be aggressive on top guard and rushes his movements and sometimes loses position. His movement is too predictable at times, and he takes too much damage. He struggles against good grapplers, and he has great cardio to go with the pace he moves at, but he doesn't veer off the line. Jim, what do you think of this fight, and then who do you have winning?
This is going to be an absolute banger of a fight. Both of these guys throw a lot and land a lot of strikes. Burgos being the more hittable of the two fighters, and he, like Billy Q, tends to keep his head on the line. So does Burgos. He's fine with fighting in a phone booth. We've seen it before. We saw it with Edson Barbosa with that scary knockout, but we've seen it with, I believe it was Kyle Bochniak in Boston years ago in that fight. Billy Q has good takedowns, and he shoots for him often, but is predictable, like you said, which could be the difference maker of this fight. But I expect this fight to be standing 100%. The one thing that Burgos has is a 5-inch reach advantage.
Yeah.
Both of these guys land about 8 punches per minute. So with that volume, plus both of them having pretty good gas tanks, this is going to be a banger of a fight, 100%. I don't really see this going to the distance because it's, you see these guys who are heavy throwers, you're like, oh, it's got to be a knockout. But I'm actually going to take this to the distance. I think this is going to be, this is my runner-up for fight of the night, but I think this is actually going to be fight of the night because we don't know what's going to happen with the Gaethje Chandler fight. So I'm going to go with Burgos by split decision. I think that this is going to be a very even match. This might even be a draw, Dan. Two cards ago, we got a draw. We might even see a draw in this one, but I'm going Burgos by split.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I have Billy Q by split decision.
No shit.
Because, like we said in this, they both pour out high volume. I look at the last fight, the fight for each guy. I watched them right before I did my notes. And, of course, Burgos was fighting Barbosa, who just killed him with the leg kicks. And then hit him with a shot to the chin. And then that's when his eyes rolled back. And then he did the crazy fall back into the cage where he basically just passed out.
Yeah, he looked like he died on his feet.
Yeah, and then you got Billy Quarantillo, who came in, who I had bet against, and he shoved that money up my ass. And he poured out a stunning performance where he poured out over 100 strikes in his fight. And these two guys are really good with their hands. They're really good with their movement. I think the one thing that kind of leaned me towards Billy Q is the striking defense of Burgos. He doesn't really use any defense. He's the type of guy that he takes offense in so that he can dish it out. And I think this is not the good fight for him to do that because
not at all.
Billy Q is going to be able to come in just as fast as he is in a fight. And I think Burgos is going to the one thing he does have is attacking the body. He likes to attack the body and head. But I think the too much strikes to the head is going to hurt Burgos, and then that's why I have split decision by Billy Q. I think he's going to be able to pull out round one. I think Burgos will make adjustments, get round two, but then Billy Q will make his own adjustments after round two, and then he'll take round three.
Okay.
And because of high volume, it's going to be like the splitting of hairs type situation where you got to go with who's doing more. But I feel like Billy Q's significant strikes will edge out Burgos.
Okay. This card in general is like a pick 'em
Yeah,
essentially. There's not a lot of heavy betting favorites in terms of the
yeah,
main card, right? They're all pretty evenly matched. If you go to the stats, like you said, with Burgos' defense, he throws out 7.29 per minute. He lands 7.29 per minute, and he absorbs 6.11 per minute. So you're absolutely right. That striking defense is pretty suspect, right? If you're almost taking in as much as you throw out, that means you're not checking things. That means you're not, you're just moving forward, relying and trusting on your chin. Billy Q, 7.08 landed, 4.33 absorbed. So he does have better head movement, and that also could be based on the takedown attempts. And he likes to do that trip, like you said.
yeah.
I knew you were going with Billy Q immediately because in all of the fight previews we've ever done, you've never introduced somebody and then said AKA his nickname. And you said AKA Billy Q, and I was like, well, there's our pick. Dan picked Billy Q. But this
Well,
is,
that
I
is,
mean,
is his nickname.
yeah, for sure. But you didn't say Hurricane Shane Burgos. This is, like I said, potential fight of the night. Every time Burgos fights, it's entertaining, and every time that Billy Q fights, it's entertaining. And you
Yeah.
put those two together, it's absolute fireworks. This is one that you either are going to get a full 15 minutes of chaos, or like 45 seconds of fury, and someone goes down.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those fights that I don't think ends in the second round. I think this goes either to distance or is stopped in the first.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun main card fight.
Absolutely.
But let's move on to the third fight on the main card. We have a lightweight matchup between Justin Gaethje, who is going up against Michael Chandler. Justin Gaethje comes in at 22-3 and is minus 190 favorite, whereas Chandler is 22-6 and is the plus 160 underdog. Gaethje is a fighter with a wrestling and striking background. He loves to move forward and pressure his opponents. He tends to take in punishment to dish it back out. He throws lower calf kicks and body kicks, and he usually shoots for double leg takedowns and body locks in the leg trips. He has knockout power in his hands and throws overhand shots, a jab, and hooks. He tends to have flat feet when he gets tired, but always starts fights with fast movement. And he likes to be selective with his entries now. Whereas Chandler is a fighter who likes to go forward pressure and in and out movement. He likes to throw the right hand followed by a left hook. He also throws jabs and straight right to the body and tends to back up with in a straight line. At times, he overextends on the two and needs to work on checking or defend leg kicks. Grappling wise, he looks for double leg takedowns along the fence and single or double legs in the open. He will always set up his entries with a straight or overhand right. In the body lock position, he will look for a suplex and also leg trips. In guard, he will look for ground and pound and throw bombs. He looks for open shots for submissions and to change guard positions to get to better positioning. He tends to slow down after round two. He has decent pace and has big time power, and his chin has been suspect in fights of late. Jim, what do you think of this fight? And then who do you have winning?
I love this matchup, and I think this is the fight of the night if it happens. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be super disappointed, and we're going to probably have to wait until December for this to happen again. But both are really good wrestlers. I think you've highlighted that. Justin Gaethje drills wrestling a lot. Michael Chandler, we obviously know, is a good wrestler. But Gaethje is the better striker of the two. And with those vicious leg kicks, and you highlighted one of Chandler's weaknesses is the ability to check leg kicks. And going up against Chandler, or Gaethje, I'm sorry, You have to check those leg kicks where he's gonna, he's gonna break your leg. Chandler of the two, I believe, has better cardio. I know you said he slows down in the second, but I think he has a better gas tank than Gaethje, which I think is going to be the big difference maker between these two. Gaethje's style caters to absolute wars, and he's become very hittable. We were talking about Billy Q and Shane Burgos the last fight about dishing out and then taking in.
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje, 7.46 strikes landed per minute. He absorbs 7.99 per minute. You know what I mean? So he's absorbing not way more, but he's absorbing more than he's dishing out. So I think that coupled with Gaethje's or Chandler's pace is going to result in a third round knockout by Michael Chandler if this fight happens. Chandler having COVID, listen, if the fight happens and he has COVID, Gaethje by a mile, because you can't even breathe when you have COVID. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, your lungs are compromised. So if that really happens, which I don't think should be allowed, I'm going to go Gaethje. But if this happens in real life with minus COVID, Chandler wins. So I'm all over the place with this one because I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, my decision doesn't change. I got Gaethje by first round knockout. I think
Damn! Wow, you went big.
Well, it's not really big. He is the favorite, but I feel like in the last fight, Charles Oliveira put in the blueprint that all you got to do is pressure Chandler and push him back because he likes to move back in the straight line, and he was able to knock him out. And just imagine what Gaethje would do, a guy who actually strikes, because Oliveira doesn't have the best striking. He is more of the grappling, whereas Gaethje, he's a knockout artist. He's going to come in, put pressure forward, and throw those bombs at you. And he has been on the record saying with his coach that he needs to be more selective of his striking, and he started to show it a little bit before the Khabib fight, and he did it a little bit there. But then, of course, Khabib's world class, so he was able to still take advantage of his striking. Because he did have Khabib rocked a couple of times in the first round, and I think the chin of Chandler isn't the same. Like I said, and that's why I got Gaethje by first round knockout. I think he's going to pressure forward, attack him. He's going to hit him in the chin, and then lights out for him. I just think Justin Gaethje is very motivated, and he's had time to recover. It's been over a year since he's fought.
Yep. It's been a long time, man. Yeah. He waited out, and I think he waited out too long. Two interim title fights or something like that. Like, he waited too long. So you're going Gaethje because of the striking ability. Do you see this at all turning into a wrestling match between these two because Chandler might not trust his chin as much as he did going into like the Oliveira fight, where again he had his moments to shine in there too and didn't capitalize on it? You remember when Chandler had Oliveira rocked and then should have went for the takedown, but Wade allowed him to get back up and try to piece him up. Do you think that this turns into a possible wrestling match if your boy Justin Gaethje doesn't knock out Chandler?
I'd be hard pressed to think that it would be. I don't think it's going to, because of the fact that they both have a wrestling background, so they should both know how to defend as well as shoot in. So it's like you're going against a mirror image of yourself.
But you're also going up against a guy who said he's better than Khabib at wrestling. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Chandler has he's probably watched that Khabib fight a million times, right? Yeah. So he's found a route to get to Gaethje, right, to get him to the takedown. I could see Chandler looking to wrestle first and work ground and pound in this because, he's not Dan Hooker, he's not Charles Oliveira, where like you really have to worry about, especially with Oliveira, you have to worry about submissions from bottom because of how good his jiu-jitsu is. Gaethje is a wrestler, but Chandler believes he's the best wrestler. So maybe, that ego kind of gets in there and says, I'm going to take this guy down and ragdoll him.
It could happen. I just think it's a bad idea because Gaethje is a guy that knows wrestling. He decides not to use it majority of the time. He likes to
Yeah.
stand up and trade because he does it for fans. He wants to put on a show. And I think he's probably game planning that Chandler might use it. So I think
Yeah.
he's been working on the takedown defense. But
Yes.
yeah,
It'll be a
but
great fight, man.
I think just like you said before, I think this has fighting night capabilities for it as long as it can happen. Just wait to see with officials to see if the fight's going to take place or not. We won't know for like a day or two. It depends on what's going on with Chandler, but let's hope that it does happen.
Well, it's in New York, right? You said it's
Yeah.
in Madison Square Garden. You're the show vaccination cards to get into Madison Square Garden, and we're right here on the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
So we know all about how strict New York and Cuomo was about getting people in sporting events. I don't see it happening, man. As much as I want to, because I want to see this fight so bad, I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, if Chandler is
I
really
think
sick with COVID.
I think it's going to happen. I think if it wasn't going to happen, they would have said something by now. The news broke out this morning, and
Yeah,
12 hours later, just about, and we haven't heard anything since.
very true.
You know how UFC works. They put it out there, they make a move, and then they try as fast as possible to plug it in. So I think it's going to happen.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I hope so because this is a firefight.
yeah. Let's move on to the co-main event of the evening, and one of the first three matches that we have on
Yep.
still. It's the women's strawweight championship matchup that puts Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Weili. Rose comes in at 11-4 as the plus 100 underdog, whereas Zhang Weili comes in at 21-2 as the minus 120 favorite. Rose is a fighter who has really good boxing in the division. She likes to use a ton of footwork and movement in the pocket. She uses the 1-2 and 2-1 and also the jab. She tends to drop her hands when she is finished throwing the combinations. She throws everything down the pipe. At distance, she throws the snap and jab, straight right, and overhand strike. For grappling, she likes to go for the double leg takedown or the body lock into leg trips. When on the ground, she looks to take the back and look for submissions, or she looks to transition to better positioning. She has kill instinct and fast hands. Her cardio and pace tend to slow down after round two. Whereas Zhang is a fighter who has great cardio and footwork. She has really quick hand speed and always is fighting on the front foot, moving forward rather than stepping back. She can close distance fast and she likes to throw jabs to establish distance. And she also uses 3-2 and the 2-3. In the pocket, she throws a bunch of hooks and counters. She tends to not move her head off the center line. In the clinch, she likes to go for body lock into the leg trips. On top guard, she looks for damage and goes for ground and pound with her strikes and elbows. She has great aggression and kill instinct, and her takedown defense, cardio, and pace are great. Jim, what do you think of this co-main event, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, man. This, like you said, is the first of the grudge matches of the night. I haven't picked against Rose, and I am not going to do this with this one. We know that Weili is a beast. She has good hands, good takedowns, good combos, good pace, good cardio, good wrestling. She checks off all the boxes. She's one of the most complete fighters in the strawweight division. But there's something about Rose where she has such a great knack of using distance as to her advantage and moving in the pocket and moving it at distance to keep Weili at bay. So I'm going to keep this short because I think that this is going to be another first or second round stoppage by Rose. I think she's going to stop Weili, and I think it's going to be early. I don't see this going to distance. And it's the battle of the buzz cuts because Weili cut her hair too, so they both have the same type of haircut. So it's that's one fun little tidbit out there when you're like, oh, I didn't realize she cut her hair. But Rose by stoppage second round.
So the differences continue as in this one, I got Zhang Weili by third round knockout. I feel
Okay.
like in the first fight, she was doing more of the damage up until the point where she got kicked in the face. That caught her by surprise. I think she knows that moving forward about the leg kick, because that was one of those ones where she just didn't expect it. You don't see Rose doing that often, and I think she's prepared for the unexpected now. I think she was able to get inside early, and then that's the scorecards were showing it, and then she moved back, and then that's when she got caught. I think she's going to be a little bit more cautious this time, but she's still going to have that explosiveness to her. Zhang Li has been in wars in the past. And of course, you got the Joanna fight where they just went at it for 5 rounds. I think, just like it says, the longer the fight goes, the better it is for Zhang Weili, because she has the better cardio. Just like it says, Rose starts to slow down a little bit, and you can tell by her movements and then her striking when she slows down. And with this one, as long as she doesn't get caught by one of those crazy leg kicks again, I don't see how Zhang Weili loses this one. She's going to come in with revenge on her mind. She's ready to go 5 rounds, and I think she has the better striking of the two for the 5 rounds. So I'm going with Zhang Weili by third round knockout. I think she catches her when she starts slowing down, and she puts her to sleep.
Yeah, there's something about this fight, and just like watching both of their social medias in a non-creepy way. That sounded creepy immediately when I said it. But Weili has been training with Figueiredo and Cejudo.
Yeah.
It's interesting of those two training partners. I know they're calling it like the redemption tour, right? It looks like, in my mind, Weili's looking to take this fight to the ground, and she's been drilling wrestling. You don't go to Cejudo for striking. You know what I mean? You go to him for wrestling. He's got a gold medal. We know this. Triple C, right? So I feel like this might turn into a wrestling match. We'll see Weili shoot for more takedowns, and maybe that's because she is a little more cautious and underestimated Rose the first fight, and that head kick out of nowhere kind of caught her by surprise, and obviously she lost her title. So I'm expecting this to actually go to the ground a little more often, and I think that's where Rose is going to shine. Weili's wrestling is fantastic, but Rose can take the back pretty quickly. Her jiu-jitsu is really, really good. So I'm curious to see where this turns out.
That, but then at the same time, one thing that Zhang Weili can use if she takes her down is to wear out Rose, make her use energy to try and get back up, to try and get the back, and then in turn, she's going to kill some of the cardio that she has issues with already a little bit faster. And I don't see Zhang Weili being the person to allow somebody to take her back. In fights, I think she knows what's going to happen. She knows to watch out for that, and then keep Rose in front of her at all times, whether it's on the ground or the feet. And I just feel like she's the more focused fighter, and then I got her getting her belt back.
Okay.
Yep.
Can't wait to see it. This is going to be a great fight too.
But let's move on to the main event of the evening. We got the welterweight championship matchup rematch between Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. Uzman comes in at 19-1 and is the minus 300 favorite, whereas Colby Covington comes in at 16-2 and is the plus 240 underdog. Uzman is a fighter who has good cardio and pace. He likes to walk you down and constantly switch stances. He likes to throw the jab, overhand strikes, and hooks. He also uses the 1-2 and the 2-1. He will utilize a lot of feints and likes to use them to change levels and shoot into the clinch. He will go for double leg takedowns or single leg takedowns, as well as the body lock into leg trips. He looks to catch kicks as well to throw his opponents down. He likes to use knees to body and elbow to head, and also likes to stomp the foot of his opponent. He incorporated a lower calf kick and body kick into his game plan. He prefers control over offense on the mat and is great at transitions, but he needs to avoid leaving his chin open at times. whereas Covington is a fighter with a wrestling background. He has high cardio and high volume. He looks for double and single leg takedowns and also body lock into leg trips. He is now trained in BJJ and has mastered the utilization of the underhook. He tends to throw overhand strikes, hooks, and uppercuts at times. He uses a lower calf kick and body kick. He has a good chin and good IQ, but he needs to be more accurate with the striking when putting out high volume. Jim, what do you think of this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Well, first and foremost, I'm super excited for this fight. This is one of those fights that you stay up late for on a main event pay-per-view. Like you'll wait up until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning to see this fight because we know the history between these two and we know exactly what happened last fight. Going into this fight, you have two great wrestlers with incredible cardio and good striking. I think a lot of people see Colby Covington for that WWE-like persona that he kind of adapted, like that he became, right? But they
Yeah.
forget that he's a hell of a fighter. He's very durable, and you're only as good as your last fight. And his last fight was against Usman, and it
Woodley.
Woodley. I'm sorry, yes, and he dominated Woodley. So that negates everything that I wanted to say. But against Usman, we saw him kind of get exposed. We saw that good chin that you talked about get exposed as his jaw got rocked. I think Usman is the better fighter in terms of complete tools. Statistically, they're almost identical with accuracy, with takedown defense, with you know, output. They're almost identical. But I see this same result with Usman winning, but I think this goes the distance. I think this is going to be a 5 round fight. I think this goes the distance, and I'm going Kamaru Usman and still unanimous decision.
This was a tough fight to predict for me because of the inactivity of Colby Covington. He hasn't
Yep.
fought since last October, so it's been over a year. Whereas Uzman has fought 2 or 3 times in that span.
Yep.
He since then has moved camps to the same camp as Justin Gaethje. He's incorporated the calf kick, like I said, into his repertoire, compliments of Gaethje, which
Hmm.
has done wonders to his output. It's been more complete. And the first fight was so crazy, like you said. He tested Colby's chin. He he broke Colby's jaw, but then Colby still went 3 more rounds with a broken jaw.
Savage.
I had the one thing with that fight that was kind of left a bad taste in my mouth was the fact that Colby Covington in I think it was the 3rd round, had Uzman reeling, and then Uzman faked a groin shot, and he was that the judge gave him 2 or 3 minutes to recover from, and you see the instant replay, and he didn't hit him in the groin, he hit him in the leg,
Okay.
and but he still allowed it, and it kind of changed the complexion of the fight, and where from there it went to Uzman. He was able to recover, attack him again, and the 5th round, where arguably it was 2-2, he put Covington down by hitting him in the jaw again. It was just too much for him.
Yeah.
But in this fight, like I, it was so hard to decide this, but I have to, I had to go with the guy that's been active. I got to go with Uzman by unanimous decision, just for the fact that I know what he's doing now. I know how he's fighting. He's been dominant lately. He's had spurts and fights uh, where he's been knocked down. Look at the Gilbert Burns fight in round
Yep.
one. He was knocked down, got back up, and then he changed his game plan to attack Burns with the leg kicks and then the jab, and that just killed Gilbert Burns' game plan. Whereas Covington hasn't fought since the Woodley fight over a year
Yep.
ago. So we don't know what to expect from Covington. And then on the crazy side, it's fight week, and we really haven't heard anything from him. He's been kind of radio silent, you would say,
Yeah.
which is scary because you know something's up when he's silent because after the Weili fight, he went off that he wanted Uzman, and the first
Yep,
fight, they were talking all trash. I think he's game planned, ready to go. It's just that we don't. It's hard to pick him when I don't know what version of Colby Covington is going to show up. So just
exactly.
for that, I'm going Uzman by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. It's hard to go against somebody who's fought 3 times to your
Yeah,
1 time since the last meeting between the two of them. Plus, you're right. Radio silence from Colby Covington is very unusual. Could mean that he's having a hard weight cut. It could mean that he's dealing with an injury, or it could
yeah,
mean that he's absolutely dialed in. The one thing that Colby usually has to his advantage is his takedowns. He almost shoots for about 5 per fight. Usman's
yeah,
got 100% takedown defense. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a gonna be a huge test for Colby if he's gonna try to go the wrestling route against Kamara. So I think this is gonna stand up and become a boxing match. And I trust Usman's hands better than Colby's at this point. Hell of a fight. I'm glad this is finally happening. I think all of Covington's fights are entertaining.
yeah.
Personality aside, I think he's one hell of a fighter. So I'm looking forward to this one. But right there with you, man. A unanimous decision win, Kamaru Usman.
Yep, definitely so. And then, what better place to have this rematch than in Madison Square
Yep.
Garden, at the mecca of the fighting world? But
Yeah.
before we get going, of course, just send us your comments and opinions on this video in the comment section. We appreciate the feedback. Let us know what you think of our predictions, and give us your predictions as well. Of course, just like I said earlier, please hit the like button on this video. It'll help us out with and support the podcast. And of course, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, High Tide Herbal. Use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. But like I said before, that'll wrap things up for the UFC 268 Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington at 2 preview show with yours truly, D-Bake and James DiLullo. We'll be back next week to preview UFC Fight Night. So until then, as always, have a good fight week. Let's hope that Madison Square Garden is a blast. And of course, we will talk to you guys next week here at Cage My IQ. Talk to you guys later.